You've coined the term world positive capitalism.
The whole point of all we do should be focused on humans thriving. There's no business to be done in a dead planet.
For women entrepreneurs to be successful, is there a slightly different recipe?
Both feminine and masculine energy are a very critical component of building an amazing company.
You're currently managing about $1.5 billion in AUM onto your fifth fund. So clearly your thesis is playing out really well. You've built some very large companies.
If we create abundance of energy, we can desalinate water. Water is not an issue. Synthetic biology can unlock oil-based derivative product substitution. I think we are just scratching right now what is possible. The framing should not be competing with AI because we can't. Framing is we need to become more human and leverage our humanness to change our system.
Welcome to TIE Talks, Ellen Sadani with Lensbridge Capital. It's my real privilege today to have Vishal Vasishth, co-founder of Obvious Ventures, visiting us in Singapore. Welcome, Vishal. I hope you're enjoying your time here in Singapore.
Thanks very much to you. I'm thrilled to be in Singapore.
I must compliment you, by the way, for your looks, down to your hairstyle. We seem to be twinning here today, and it's nice to have very similar kind of looks on this show.
Alan, like Anthropic is democratizing intelligence, maybe we can democratize this amazing look. Everybody can have it.
That can be the new fashion statement. Okay, Vishal, you've had a fascinating background, growing up in India, living in Bhutan, living in the US, and working for organizations like Patagonia before you set up Obvious Ventures. Give us a sense for the journey you've had, and where you're today, and how it's shaped your thinking in terms of how you think about the world and investing in general.
In my work life, Patagonia was and has been a cornerstone of my career. Helped grow the company from a small brand to a global phenomenon, and learned a lot. After that work, I got inspired to branch out in the world of non-profit for a couple of years, 1.5 years. And with few of my friends, I started thinking a lot about how do you distinguish between a good business versus good marketing. And we came up with a new nonprofit called Corp, which has become a huge nonprofit now. Anthropic is a PVC, and so is OpenAI. Then I went into the world of investing with Steve Case at Revolution, a fund called Song, backed by George Soros, Media, Google in India. And after all these experiences, I was feeling something was missing. After some contemplation, I really wanted to use my life to make impact at the biggest scale. And I came to this conclusion that the two tools which can work, one was technology-oriented venture capital, very early stage. And second was policy.
Okay.
I was not a policy guy, so I chose the first. And since most of the action happens in the Valley, I packed my bags and went to Silicon Valley. And got connected with my partners, Ev Williams and James. Ev had started multiple companies like Blogger, coined the word blogging, Twitter, took it public, and then Medium. And James has been a serial tech entrepreneur. And I remember sitting in a small room discussing why is there no dedicated vehicle targeted towards investing in things which matter. Everybody was just doing another SaaS or another social media product. And so that's where we connected. And in a classic Silicon Valley style, Ev said, I remember, hey, if it doesn't exist, we need to build it. And that's when we started working on Obvious. For us, systemic challenges in the world exist, have existed, will exist. But what's the beauty of human ingenuity, this human desire and focus to kind of understand these complex systems, take them apart, and re-look at them like an amazing puzzle in a better way. That ingenuity is what gets us inspired at Obvious. And we call it world positive investing. That spirit is what we call world positive investing, that human ingenuity, the human spirit to kind of say, like, let me solve a problem which was unsolvable or something became convoluted and I want to kind of do a better way.
So there are many things to unpack in what you just said. Let me go back and sort of talk about your work at Patagonia for a second. You were an operator there, a business operator. You saw an opportunity to impact the world through investing. How did you make that jump from being an operator, senior member of Patagonia's management team, to actually being an investor, and now you're a world-class venture capitalist? How did that transition happen? Because I'm sure that's not an easy transition to make.
I think if I was a betting person growing up in India and people said you can become a venture capital and be talking to Ellen today in Singapore, I think they will lose the bet, right? Like, because the odds were pretty against it. Like, and you're totally right. Like, this whole classical operator to investor is also a very hard jump. I'm kind of a believer in if you do something with sincerity, paths open up, doors open up. I was very sincere at Patagonia to understand the phenomena of Patagonia and be part of it in helping build a brand, a business model which could stay for 100 plus years. How do you build a company like that?
Sure.
And when that was happening through me, and when I felt good about having a good handle, in fact, I've written about a 5P framework on how can you build businesses where a great product, profits, planet, and people are all aligned together. It creates a sense of flow around a certain purpose.
Yeah.
And you create like this long-lasting company. So that was kind of my phase one of my journey. And then I got intrigued, and I learned at Patagonia, I got intrigued about business and a role of business in society, in a system. That took me to thinking about how do I help brand a good company which is good for the system. And so that took me to B Corp.
Yeah.
And became a fellow at Aspen Institute. And before that, the CEO of Patagonia got recruited by Steve Case at Revolution. He said, like, you want to come here and do investing. So that door opened up.
Right.
And I said, I'd love to.
Mm-hmm.
And then I was at Aspen Institute. A friend of mine who was at Google said, like, hey, there is a project which we are interested in backing in India. Are you interested? And I packed my bags from Ojai, California to go to Hyderabad, India. Because I had this, at that point, I was just like fascinated by this idea. Can you use the power of building businesses to solve systemic problems?
Yeah.
So I think answering your question, I think our lives are such that if you work on something with sincerity, you continue to peel what comes next. And once doors open up, rather than being afraid or fearful, you go through those doors, then somehow you live a life which was meant to be for you.
Yeah.
So
I want to go to the early days of your time in India. You grew up in Chandigarh and spent some time in Bhutan as well. I understand you had a very serious and near fatal accident when you were 17. And it must have been a very difficult time for you and the family. I understand your dad passed away very soon thereafter as well. How did that in any way shape your thinking and how you view your work today and the sincerity with which you approach it, the impact it's had on how you think about the future of the planet?
Yeah, no, thanks for taking me back. My father was a civil engineer worked in Punjab government and got deputed to Bhutan, and so very early on, for 5 years, I was in Bhutan, and I remember fondly about all the nature and beautiful kind of country Bhutan is. And then coming back to India, I was obsessed by cricket, playing, having fun, and not studying. And I remember my father, like all Indian fathers are, maybe critical of like, you need to study and get into either, as they famously say, engineering college or become a doctor, if you want to have a stable life. I also, in those days, maybe we are in similar era, like Yamaha 100cc bikes became very popular.
I used to have one of those. Yeah.
I fought for 2 years.
Yeah.
And cajoled my mom to kind of convince my dad, who was against it. But I got it finally, a red colored, beautiful Yamaha 100cc bike. And in 12th grade, after maybe 2 weeks of college, starting in an year, which is one of the most important years in Indian education system, I had this near fatal accident. Thank God I was wearing a helmet, because in those days, I don't know if you remember, you would wear your helmet on the side while driving your bike, and I broke my femur bone really badly, was unconscious, and stayed in hospital for like 6 months or so.
Wow.
Didn't go to school, and then came back in December or so, and then my father passed away in January. And like a kid at that time, like think about like all this is happening, and I'm telling you, and it's getting to my system right now, is you start thinking like you may have caused this. But after that, one thing happened in the last 2 months of my 12th grade. I did home tuition and somehow got into an engineering college entrance exam. I passed and became really focused to kind of do something with my life. And since then, I've been very, very focused, I feel. Maybe still seeking his validation.
Has it also changed your perception of risk in any way? And I was telling you earlier about my life experience. I've been through a couple of near fatal situations. At least in my case, it has changed my perception of risk. And, you feel like every day is a gift. When you gave the cricket analogy, and it almost feels like this is an extra innings sometimes. Has that happened to you? I mean, do you feel like, okay, I've been through really rough patches here. What do I have to lose? And the perception of risk changes. Does that happen?
You're right. Like, I think something was there in my system that I was ready to take that risk and go into the unknown, knowing that I don't have enough money, that I won't be able to pay for it, but something will work out, right? Like by definition, ambiguous situations, when people jump in, they are taking risk. But I've done a lot of deep thinking on this, Alan. Like I think, I believe human mind works on two frameworks, love and fear. Yes, I was taking risk, and maybe the accident helped, but also I was operating out of fear as well.
Business can be a big force for change, for good. And you have truly not just bought into that idea, but you've actually expounded that. You've coined the term world positive capitalism. what does that mean to you exactly? And how has that shaped the way you have evaluated businesses? Has it always played out in a way that you expected it to be played out?
Let me first kind of explain our thesis in more detail of how we work at Obvious. The whole point of all we do should be focused on humans thriving. Otherwise, what's the point? There's no business to be done in a dead planet. I've written a lot about positive capitalism, and we can go detail on that. But on the thesis itself, we designed with this in mind. And what our thesis at Obvious is we want to, or we are investing in breakthrough innovations, solving systemic challenges in large markets. We believe at the intersection is where progress happens. And we want to invest in progress around 3 domains of progress. How do we improve planet health, human health, and economic health? We believe those 3 are fundamental building blocks of any good society. And in each of these 3 areas, we're looking for what are the breakthrough solutions which are inflecting based upon macro and micro tailwinds. So let me give you a few examples to validate kind of how we've been investing, or validate the thesis of how we've been investing. In planet health, there are 3 areas of investments which we do. One is on energy abundance. So we have a company called Sanskar, which is an AI geothermal energy. They're building a foundational model on the geothermal layer. And through that, they are able to predict where should you drill. And they've been able to kind of have 3-on-3 drills, which have had positive outcomes.
Yeah.
Material abundance. We have a company called Diamond Foundry, which is building gem quality diamonds in a plasma reactor. So mimicking sun energy to come produce diamonds. And now they're taking these diamonds into substrate for semiconductors, which has a huge challenge in heat generation. Then physical AI is another area of deep interest on how do you make sense of our physical world? How do you have edge intelligence, edge autonomy? And we just invested in a company called Charter. And what they're doing is inference optimization at the edge for each company. So whether global cloud or private cloud or your computer, how do you kind of optimize? And then what are the open source SLM close models to make the most optimal use of energy? Which also means improving margins. Human health is the second vertical. And there we are very interested in how do we improve our healthcare system. US healthcare system has huge problems. We spend a lot of money, but our outcomes are not that great. So how do we improve outcomes, reduce cost, and get personalized care at scale? And in that kind of context, we've been investing in 4 broad areas. One is outcome-driven healthcare. A company we've invested in is called Verta Health, which is reversing type 2 diabetes in conjunction with GLP-1s. They are able to save $10,000 to $12,000 to the insurance companies. They charge $5,000, and the patient does not need any drugs and can tie their laces by themselves. All stakeholders win. That's the healthcare system I want to kind of see in the US. We're very interested in AI, autonomous and semi-autonomous agents. We have a company called Bayesian Health. They have a foundation layer built on companies like Cleveland, our clients, Mayo Clinic, our clients. So they have data of when a patient enters a health system and then goes out of a health system. And on top of that model, they are building autonomous agents or and one of the agents is sepsis agent, where you are able to kind of detect sepsis much earlier. You then have an intervention, and then you have documentation. So all the cognitive load to a doc or a frontline staff can be reduced drastically.
Yep.
They just got a FDA approval. So it's like making great progress, and they'll come up with multiple of these apps on or system of action on these kind of models which they are building. We do a lot of work in bio. How do we decode our biology so that we can get into almost zero-shot development in a simulation environment? How do we understand disease better? How do we understand target ID better? How do we understand or simulate a drug itself, mRNA drug, or different kinds of drugs, or TCR therapy? Like, how do we design that? How do we optimize that for preclinical kind of work, for tox work? So take all this work, which takes long time today, and shorten it so that you have a plethora of opportunities of top of funnel for drugs which can kind of target diseases. But also fundamentally, we are investing in DNA-based model companies and RNA and methylation to understand disease by itself.
Yep. Can
we kind of eradicate certain diseases by being preventative in their nature? And then lastly, we have a Singaporean, and now he lives in America. He's building in clinical trials. That's a space which we are also investing in because as you have more drugs coming through the pipeline, clinical trials become a bottleneck. And so this company, Iterative Health, is working on solving that.
Yeah.
So that's our human health work. And in economic health, we do work on robotics and autonomous systems. We have a company called Eka Robotics, a professor from MIT, who's building dexterous hand, which is a huge unsolvable problem in humanoids. And he's building a foundational model on that and showing real good results. We would love to see humanoids or robotics applied into dull, dirty, dangerous jobs, which humans should not be doing. Safety and security. We just invested in a company from a board member and a professor of CMU. You went to CMU.
That's right. Yeah.
And he's building a AI agent security company. We've been hearing about Mythos and all these kind of challenges. And so they're working with all kind of the big, large foundational model companies to build a AI agent security company. Open source. I don't think we should only have Dario and Sam rolling the world. You and me, everybody else in Singapore and other places should also be able to rule the world. And so we want to invest in open source, democratization. And I foresee this intelligence democratization, which is a step ahead of now, like mobile phones in your pocket. I can see everybody having these tools and not being dependent on other people and be able to kind of live their full potential. So I have a different view that instead of job loss, I think there's going to be a lot of job creation, which is going to happen in the world. So hopefully that gives you an idea. World positive to us is keeping humans at the center and investing in good society where the components are planet health, human health, economic health, not short-term oriented, but long-term oriented. How do we improve longevity? How do we make sure future generations have all the resources to build a robust economy? How do we make sure everybody has purpose?
That's phenomenal. You're currently managing about $1.5 billion in AUM onto your fifth fund, which, you know, anyone who's been in this industry, it's not easy to get to your fifth fund because you need to show consistent performance across multiple generations and vintages of funds. And you've done that. So clearly your thesis is playing out really well. You've built some very large companies. I believe Devoted Health is a decacorn now.
Yes.
And you have Iterative Health is a unicorn. So you've had some amazing success stories in your portfolio. So, as you talked about the future of work, of health, all of these things are very close to our hearts out here. Um, do you see Asia becoming the home to some very large and exciting technology companies? We see a lot of work happening in China, of course, and Singapore has some homegrown entrepreneurs, some of whom are members of TIE. Do you see this becoming as exciting a place to develop new startup ideas, get venture funding as the Valley is right now?
Let me come back to that. Let me close some of the things which you just said.
Yeah.
I think a validation of any thesis is, of course, fundraising is one, but also actual performance is very important.
Sure.
Because the work which we are doing, it's very important that we can catalyze other investors and other entrepreneurs to follow this journey. Of course, Elon Musk single-handedly changed the electrification industry, car industry, and in our case, I think we've invested in 100+ companies. We've, returned $350+ million. Like we've had 6 public offerings, couple of decacorns, multiple unicorns, like a lot of unicorns, and a lot of exits, private exits. We are still in the early innings, but we feel we are validating a differentiated thesis, which I think I would love. My life's work would be like not only obvious being successful, but if there were like, hundreds of young people starting companies with this ethos and a lot of different fund managers like building funds, and which we are starting to see already. Like I think we looked up to Generation, Al Gore's fund in the late stage market when we started. Obvious, there was none in early stage, and now we are starting to see a lot of other folks pop up. Coming back to Asia and your question, a lot of challenges maybe in Asia may be very different than what US-based challenges are. Right now in this kind of new change of technology infrastructure, given we are only a few years into it, most of the action is either specifically in San Francisco, in broader US, or as you said, China. But I'm very hopeful both Asia and India are going to build amazing companies in the future. I think the thing which we have done in US and specifically in Silicon Valley, we have built this brand which attracts and takes this ambitious swings, and it's okay to lose. We've created this environment, that's the same thing which we have to do in Singapore and Asia and India, that it's okay to lose. It's one, like, you and I have been talking about, you've done all these interesting things. I've done all these interesting things. There's no such thing as static.
Yeah.
It's okay to fall and get up.
It's about being able to take risks,
Yeah.
and being willing to take risks.
Yeah.
Right.
I think right now, we have an advantage in the US because if there is a Singaporean who's thinking about, has that kind of a mindset, they want to find their mates, and their mates are in Silicon Valley, and they come there. And once they become very successful, then they come back to their respective countries, and then they start investing there. I've seen that all over, kind of in Europe and other places, where somebody from Denmark would go build a great company and then go back to Denmark and start building an ecosystem there with that mindset. Once they have tasted, like, huge ambition, how to bring that in action.
So I have 2 follow-up questions to that. One is, if one is a startup entrepreneur here in Singapore or anywhere in the region, and wants to really develop a global business, I guess at some point it's important to look at the US market and start thinking about developing that, maybe raising some capital out there as well. How should a startup founder be thinking about, the geographic location? Should they be thinking about relocating their base to the US? How do you think they should be thinking about a global, developing a global platform?
It all depends upon ambition. If you have a huge global ambition, and we talked about a little bit before this, having $100 million business valuation business, or having a $500 billion or $1 trillion business valuation, I think those are two different kind of ambition. But if you really want that kind of an ambition, I think you have to find entrepreneurs, you have to find employees, you have to find ecosystem, all which is wanting and cheering you to go for that ambition. And that is something which we provide in the Valley. But having said that, I've seen cases, case in point, Israel has done an amazing job. It's a small country, and they, living in Israel or kind of co-locating in Israel and Europe, or Israel and London, they create these mega companies out of Israel.
Yeah.
So it's possible.
Yeah.
It's quite possible, but it's a great case study which comes in front of me of my amazing Jewish friends who've done amazingly well, in US and Israel.
Yeah. So my other follow-up question was, if you're not a founder yet, but you'd like to set up a company and you have aspirations to set up, go down this entrepreneurial journey, what are the things that you should be thinking about or you should look out for? In your experience, what are the key ingredients for success as an entrepreneur?
You asked me a question about what changed growing up in my life and the accident, my father's death, kind of the singular focus which came out of that. Of the best entrepreneurs I've seen, I think there is this obsession which you can trace where it's coming from. And they are living here on this time frame, but their heart and soul is in a different time scale. And they clearly see in that time scale what is going to happen. And they're a force of nature. Like if I say no, it's great, they move on, they find somebody else who is also living with them in that future. So obsessive missionary people who have this trace, you can trace that they're not doing it to become rich. It's an obsession.
Yeah.
I'm looking for that human being who is obsessed by whatever something works today, the way it works, should not exist the way it exists today. And it needs to change. And their role and their purpose is to change that. There'll be problems, something will happen which doesn't work, but they are not going to give up easily. The benefits of becoming and the fruits of that labor is not what they're thinking about. They're just thinking about that obsession. I do not think type 2 diabetes should exist. We can reverse it. Why are we mining and destroying and having private armies to mine diamonds? Let's change that system. Why are people doing this dangerous, dirty job where their backs get messed up? That should be done by robots. I think that is the person I get most excited about.
Yeah.
And the bigger the ambition, the bigger I get excited about. But authenticity is something which I go deep on.
Yeah.
It cannot be just I woke up today and I heard somebody talk about something and I want to start a company. I just want to see some meat into that process they've gone through and they've churned internally. They've thought about it.
Yeah.
They should, when I ask a question, they should be 100x smarter than me on that subject.
Yeah.
If I am smarter than 1 hour in that subject, I should run away. you know, so
Yeah.
like the biggest mistakes I have done is I can do something in this situation because I understand this thing. It's like fundamental 101 of investing. No. We are backing people who are 100x better than us. We are a service provider.
Yeah.
We are a service provider. They are the real deals. They are the 0 to 1 builders. And we want to find them and then be part of, learn to sit on the back seat of the cars they're driving.
I have to ask you this follow-up question because in my experience, I've noticed that women make for amazing entrepreneurs. I've had the privilege of working with several women entrepreneurs, and I've always noticed a certain sense of authenticity, sincerity, all the things that you talked about.
Mm-hmm.
And at TIE Singapore, we've got some amazing chart members who are women entrepreneurs. Have you seen a certain sort of how should I say correlation between gender and performance? Has that ever shown up? And the second part to that question is, for women entrepreneurs to be successful, is there a slightly different recipe? Because for generations, women have not been encouraged to do many things that they do today, or they have achieved today. Does the recipe for success for them change in any way?
Yeah, so it's a great question, Alan. I think Obvious has backed, and I may be wrong these numbers, and Jack, my CFO, if I am wrong, I'm sorry. Around 20% of our founders are co-founders or founders are women, which is a much higher average than a US average. And one of a woman entrepreneur, Iman, who's building a nursing marketplace, is a unicorn company. It's called Incredible Health. She's doing a great job. We invested, and then Andreessen came in, and a few other folks came in after that. Both feminine and masculine kind of energy are a very critical component of building an amazing company. So whether you are a woman and you're bringing a feminine energy, but also bringing a masculine energy when it's needed. Mm. Similarly, if you're a man, having a masculine energy, which is your maybe go-to, but bringing feminine energy to come building a certain kind of culture, certain kind of a shape of your company is very critical. Irrespective in both those cases, I think I'm just most interested in understanding what is the motivation deep down, and where is that coming from? Where's that energy coming from? I think that to me is the most important kind of success criteria. But if you want to have cheat codes, I was telling you, Michael Milliken just kind of was saying hey, if you replace a US CEO with Indian-born, CEO in a public market company, buy the stock. I just kind of read that on X. So that's a cheat code, right? Because backtest data shows Indian-born US CEOs in public companies have performed really well. Similarly, the cheat code could be immigrants who go in US and against all odds are able to kind of build things is another cheat code, right? Somebody who's been doing things like your son, mm-hmm. starting at 16 years and is restless and has been thinking about kind of different things is another cheat code. Yeah. because they're getting comfortable within their skin. Like, hey, they are trying to experiment things, and then they come out on the other side to kind of do something interesting. So these are all kind of cheat codes and stuff. But I do think both masculine and feminine energy is needed. And I think amazing companies can be built by both male and females. Should not be any discrimination or any bias one way or another.
All right. Indian CEOs. Now, Thai, of course, has very strong links to the Indian subcontinent. And the Indian diaspora has done phenomenally well around the world. How would you think about ways in which somebody of an Indian heritage can really, think about setting up the business, raising capital? Are there any cheat codes that you think are applicable to somebody from the Indian diaspora that could be relevant? And I'm asking you this question because of, I guess, the predominance of people from the subcontinent in our membership.
Yeah. So, Alan, I think this is a subject which I've thought about. I think I'm starting to kind of see the next generation is starting to show up in all these next generation AI companies. There's one person who has gone to MIT or like Stanford or somewhere else, or CMU or other places, and they are like one of the co-founders of all these high-flying companies, right in Valley. So I think we are in a very privileged situation right now. I think when we enter into a room, I think people think like, hey, this guy must be really smart. Unless you screw it up completely.
Yeah.
So I think like there is a positive vibe right now.
That's right.
That you have to mess it up to say like,
odds are stacked in our favor.
Yeah. So it's like with that kind of opportunity also comes responsibility.
Sure.
In last 20 years, like we gained that opportunity. So it also means we have to have a responsibility to kind of give back, to help, to kind of share the successes which we've had with other folks, right? So that's the story I see for the Indian diaspora. And I'm so proud.
As we should be. I believe, the Indian diaspora have had such a positive impact in so many different ways around the world. So there's so much to be proud about. Vishal, I want to end with one question, which is about the next generation. You talked about the youth. You talked about, the next generation earlier on. What is your message to them? And I'm not just talking about kids who want to be entrepreneurs, but kids in general, because we are facing a world which is changing so dramatically with AI and new technologies all around us that is shaping the way in which we live, in which we work with each other, etc. The future of education is likely going to be very different from the way it has been in the past. What's the message to the youth that you have? How should they be thinking about their future? Should they be optimistic? We also see so much turmoil around the world. Mental resilience has never been more important. Yeah, I'd love to get your thoughts on that.
Yeah, I think we are living through a very interesting times. I was listening to this guy, Sadhguru, and did not know much about him. But one of the things he said like left an impression. And he just talked about our identity, which could be narrow or broad. So identity could be venture capitalists. We gather memory to align with our identity, and that helps us in our intellect to navigate the world. Mm-hmm. So it's basically memory, data, validation of your identity, helping in your intellect, and that is what we've been doing. Mm-hmm. And when AI and algorithms start automating this, what's the role of humans? So I've been thinking a lot about that And that's the other reason I'm kind of interested about this idea which I've been promoting, which is if you go at a deep conscious level, there is a law of nature, and law of nature is like every human has a great potential, and we have a great potential to love ourselves and love everybody, and to help ourselves and everybody else, use this life to its fullest. If we can change our mindset to human flourishing and utilize all these innovations and technology and all the things which are happening for that, there's so much opportunity to solve biggest problems and improve lives. We'll be able to have a person in Sudan perform in oncology same kind of diagnosis which average person in Stanford is doing. You'll be able to kind of have the best educator, best therapist in your pocket to keep us healthy, or maybe before even disease, understand from your DNA sequencing and kind of gene edit, whatever thing should not be there, If we create abundance of energy at low costs, we can desalinate water. Water is not an issue. If we do have water, agriculture becomes not an issue. Synthetic biology, I think, as an idea, can unlock oil-based kind of derivative product substitution. I think we are just scratching right now what is possible. The framing should not be competing with AI, because we can't. Framing is we need to become more human and leverage our humanness to change our system. I think I was talking to a friend of mine. I think this whole idea of building heaven on earth is possible. If you have the stream of physics of what physics can do, if that can marry with this natural law which consciousness defines, and if it can merge, then each individual person will be able to live to their fullest potential. And if you are able to kind of up-level that, you can be occupied for a long time doing stuff which will provide you purpose.
That's an incredible note to end this conversation on. Thank you so much for being here today, Vishal. It's been a real privilege to have you. And, I'm looking forward to more such exciting conversations with you. I've learned so much from you today.
Thank you, Alan. Thanks again for giving me this privilege and opportunity to share.
No, and I'm sure the universe will continue to show us the way.
Awesome.
Thank you.